My first book, The Areas of My Expertise, a publisher came to me. They said, you should do a trivia book. And I loved that idea because I grew up on those trivia books that you would keep in the bathroom, the People's Almanac, the Book of Lists, Big Secrets. And I was like, I'd love to do a book of trivia and hidden history and forgotten facts, but those books exist. So what can I bring to the world of fact? How about fake fact?
Fake fact.
And so my books were sort of absurdist humor, where instead of doing a list of the 9 U.S. presidents who had an addiction to cigars, it would be the 9 U.S. presidents who secretly had hooks for hands. And
hooks for hands was one of my favorite things.
Yeah, and I would write about how no one talked about how FDR had a hook for a hand, and no one knew it because it was shaped like a wheelchair. So that
still funny.
It's and only because there was a conspiracy of silence around the fact that FDR was disabled and had polio.
Right.
And he wasn't photographed from the waist up, or in my universe, he wasn't photographed from the wrist up.
From the wrist up, actually.
Exactly.
But the point of this is that these books were successful at a time when making stuff up wasn't reality. And what I think is remarkable is the road has risen to meet you since then, hasn't it?
I think it's dropped.
The road is lowered to meet you.
Yeah, the road and the bar and everything else has lowered.
I kind of thought about this book being real or true as a response to the fact that it's no longer interesting to make things up because now the president's doing it, and now people in politics are doing it, and the world is doing it. Right?
Well, my first book put me onto The Daily Show.
Right.
And there I was the resident expert, and it was very much the same act, absurdist humor, where you take what's really happening in the world, talk about it truthfully, and then, in my case, extrapolate it out to the most absurd extent.
Yeah.
Well, reality doesn't need my help to do that anymore.
No.
And the character that I ended up doing on that show, The Deranged Millionaire, was specifically based in 2011 when Donald Trump was just dropping in on cable news studios to spin some birther conspiracies about then President Barack Obama. Remember him? Not sure if you do. And I was like, we need that on The Daily Show. We need just a rich white guy who feels like he can just drop in and say about a bunch of nonsense because he's a rich white guy. And that's how the Deranged Millionaire character began. And then by a couple of years later, I realized I can't compete. There's nothing I can do comedically
with reality
to compete with the long-form improv that Donald Trump is doing.
It is improv.